Here on the table in front of me are several pieces of gear that I've been testing and using on my trips in 2025 so far, and I've spent quite a bit of time already out on the trail getting as much experience with these items as I can to then share with you guys what that experience has been. We're going to go through each of these items and then decide or categorize whether or not it is a keeper or a flop or in the middle of what I would call a fleeper. There's some new vocabulary there for you. Things that it's not a total fail, it's not a total flop, but also not 100% keeper, things that I would change based off of my experience. So I've got some tents, a backpack, some shoes, food items, and some other small gear items to talk about today. So let's talk about a tent first. This is the Enran 2 from the Free Spirits or TFS. This is a brand that you've maybe never heard of before or are just now starting to learn about as they are expanding into the US market as well as just other markets outside of China where TFS is based. Now, TFS is a brand. They have an amazing attention to detail. They produce everything in their own factory, in-house, designed in-house, and they are creating some really, really cool designs, including this tent, the Enran 2, and there's also a one-person version. But this is a tunnel-style tent. Now, tunnel-style tents in the US may not be super popular, but I wanted to give this a try because I was intrigued at what it provides from a design standpoint. It has an amazing amount of space inside of it. The two-person number on it, or the size, does actually mean two people are going to fit inside of this tent. And it's not like a coffin that you would see from a lot of other tunnel style tents, or at least the tunnel type of tents that I've used, either from Tarp Tent or Hilleberg, where there's not a lot of like shoulder space to move around to side or even height. But it is going to be lower profile than other like dome style or even some trekking pole tents, because that is the benefit of this design. It makes it storm worthy and does really well in the wind, and this is definitely proving itself good on that front because I've had it in some pretty intense winds so far and was like, dang, that thing is strong, and I am really enjoying it. So there will be more about this tent down the road to talk about after I get more experience with it, but we'll do a first look at this as well because it is fairly new to the market and I am quite enjoying it. Now, before I talk about the other tent, I want to talk about another piece of gear that's not really a gear item per se, but it is an important piece of gear. And I'm actually come up here to the camera and talk about it. And that is Onyx Backcountry, who is the sponsor of this video today. And just want to thank them for supporting the channel. We're at the time of year where so many of us are just now starting to plan our backpacking trips for the spring, summer, and even fall months of the year. I love that I have a tool that allows for me to get really detailed with my planning and put waypoints and information in place so that I have access to it offline and be able to make my trip more successful because of that. But then additionally, Onyx has also released a new feature with the planning aspect of the app where multiple people can contribute to the same trip plan. So when you create a folder, you're able to share that with other people, and on their Onyx account, they are able to contribute to that plan also, which I think is fantastic in the sense of group planning where you maybe are not able to get together. You can start adding things to a trip plan that is done by several different people to create a conglomerate of a plan overall. Check out the Onyx app if you haven't already. I've got a link down in the description to save some money on a membership with Onyx, and want to thank them for sponsoring this video today. Now, next up here is the Durston X-Dome 1 Plus tent. I am going to go into a lot more detail of my experience with this in a future video, but for now I am putting this in the fleeper category. I actually really like this tent, but there are a few things that I would change about it. And the one to talk about is the size of the floor at the foot end. The design of the floor is really interesting. There's not really anything else like it on the market, and I think that that is pretty cool. What Dan has created here is a very livable space, a very enjoyable space to be in, but I wish that the tent didn't taper so much at the one end to make it so that it was really tight on a sleeping pad. Now I think it's 28 inches wide, but even then a 25-inch wide pad is still pretty tight in that space. And what I would do is remove some of the vestibule space to make a wider floor, because I would rather have a wider floor throughout the entire length of the tent as opposed to a huge vestibule space. I find that there's a lot of the vestibule that I'm not even using when I would rather put some more of my gear inside of my tent at my feet as opposed to being in the vestibule and being in that space. So that's a pretty very personal preference of the design of the tent. But outside of that, there's just little nuanced things about it that I would change as well that I'll get into more in a future video. But this tent, man, there's so much to love about it. I understand why it is getting so much attention, why it's had so much attention, and the potential that it provides for just a great experience in the backcountry with something that doesn't require a lot of fuss and time to get a good effective pitch out of. So well done on this, but in the fleeper category, I'll go into more detail about that and my overall experience with it in a future video. Next up is what is on my wrist here. This is the Coros Apex 2 Pro watch. You guys, I have been wearing a Phoenix from Garmin for a long time, and then I got this Coros watch, and this thing is freaking cool. It does essentially everything else that my Garmin is capable of doing, but the biggest seller for me with this watch is the battery life. I've had this for several months now, and I think I charge it maybe every week and a half to 2 weeks, depending on what my activity is with the watch. And when I'm out on a weekend backpacking trip and I'm doing the tracking with it, I find that it only goes down to 60% with my full day of hiking of tracking, and I get my heart rate, I get elevation, I get information that I would need to help me just have the data that I want when I'm out on trail. It's also super comfortable on my wrist. I am really, really pleased with the Coros product. It is a keeper for sure. Next is going to be my first flop category item. And actually it's the only item that I would put into a full flop of what we're talking about today. And that is the Big Agnes Sweetwater 43 backpack. I recently talked about this in much greater detail in a recent video that's linked in the description for you to check out. But this backpack has a lot to be desired. I wanted this pack to be a huge win after a really poor experience with the Prospector 50, which was the first generation backpack that Big Agnes designed and released. This is generation 2 or go number 2 for them with backpacks. And it's still just not quite there. It has those kind of classic nuances that Big Agnes seems to have in their designs. But the standout things that are a frustration to me is I wish the design of the vest style straps were a bit more focused on comfort. They don't do a lot of load spread across your shoulders here where it wraps over the top of your shoulders. I was finding getting some bruising on my collarbones and stuff, as well as the hip belt, as big and padded as it appears to be, it's not as comfortable as I would like to be, and it kind of collapses on itself because of this cutout. Like I said, I go into much more detail about this in another video solely speaking about this pack, so check that out. But this is going to be the flop so far of what I'm talking about today. And I am going to spend more time with this pack because I do want to see, is my experience going to change over time with it? I've had it out on 2 trips so far. And over that 2 trips, the first one was a terrible experience. I didn't like the pack at all. Second time was a much more positive experience. And so my hope is that each time I take it out, it just gets better and better. But right now, I don't have like huge confidence in the pack, and it wouldn't be my go-to over other options that I have here on the wall behind me. Now, next up here, let's talk about food. Some new freeze-dried meals that are available on the market that I have really enjoyed. This is the company Trail Goods Co., which actually just launched a couple of months ago, and my friend Luke actually created these meals, and I'm really impressed. Like, it's so nice to see some new fresh flavors of freeze-dried meals out on the market, and not just another beef stroganoff or another biscuits and gravy. Like, these are fantastic. This is the creamy spicy chicken pasta, 42 grams of protein, 840 calories. This has a really nice flavor profile, and it's also not like so much food that it is like, oh, I can't eat all of that, and then you're wasting a bunch of it, and it is just fantastic. This one is the stir-fried pork noodles. This I would put as my least favorite of these 4 meals. It's a really mild flavor, but it has a ton of protein, 53 grams of protein. It's ground pork, stir-fried noodles, and vegetables in a sesame ginger soy sauce. So again, it is pretty mild, but it is very delicious, 940 calories. Then my 2 favorite meals, which he launched with 4 meals or 4 flavors to start, and would imagine more coming down the road later. But this is the chicken chili verde. This one is my absolute favorite of the Trail Goods meals, 660 calories, so not as like calorie rich as some of the others, but I love to put this into a tortilla, add a little bit of hot sauce, and create that chicken chili verde burrito. It's delicious. This rehydrates really well, has a very nice flavor profile, and the green chilies in here adds just enough spice to like make it like, just great. So the Trail Goods meals, absolutely a keeper. And then these smoothies from Packet Gourmet. These are something that I was like, I, again, don't really know about that. 400 calories from each of these. This is the Peach Passion, and this is the Berry Berry. They're fantastic, honestly. I have gotten pretty tired of eating oatmeal or granolas or bars or having to do a much larger meal like biscuits and gravy or something, or breakfast skillet on my trips for my meal to start the day. And I don't always want to be boiling water. So put cold water in here, give it a good shake, and it's delicious. So these are absolutely a keeper as well. And I think that they're also a limited run, so you might not be able to find these depending on when you watch this video, but these are absolutely delicious. Now, just a few more items here before we wrap up and talk about the sleeping pad that I've got on the table in front of me, but very quick, very simple. This collaboration of the Sawyer Squeeze with the Canuck Vecto. This is a match made in heaven. I am so glad to see that this is now sold as a package deal to get the Vecto X water bag with the Sawyer Squeeze. There's also a couple other options of different bags in this whole collaboration with the Squeeze or the micro filter. So you can check that out. I've got some links for you to see those, but this is my go-to water filter system. I've been using this pair on the trail for years, and I absolutely love it. And I love that the collaboration was done using the Vecto X as opposed to the standard Vecto. I've not had any pinhole leaks or issues with the X model. It has been absolutely fantastic, and I love that that collaboration happened, because easily one of my favorite, or a couple of favorite pieces of backpacking gear ever. Now, next up here is a piece of gear that I actually create and sell on my website, and this is the Backcountry Exposure Little Ditty bag. This is a bag that I think just holds a lot of value in being simple, but also effective in what it provides from a convenience standpoint. So you have a watertight zipper and a lot of space in here because it has a gusseted bottom to it that makes it stand up on its own really easy, but that makes it so that bulkier items fit in here better, and it's not putting a bunch of stress on the zipper like you might see from a little flat type of envelope bag. This one here is the red Ultra Grid or the dark chili Ultra Grid, and I'm using this as my first aid kit. And again, the gusset on the bottom makes it stand up on its own, but adds that volume so the bulky things in here just fit better. These are available on my website. They're an absolute keeper. I love this bag, and I would love for you to check those out in the links down below. Let's talk about a new pair of shoes that got released that these I'm putting in the fleeper category. Now, my all-time favorite hiking shoe is the Danner Trail 2650. I have a long-term review available to watch on those shoes that I'll link down below as well. But these are a new release from Danner, the N45. I love everything about this shoe minus one thing. That is the side of the cutout here around your ankle is just high enough on my foot that it like digs in to the space right under my ankle bone. And so I find after a full day of hiking, that spot on my ankle is really sore. It has a unique type of sole that is like a nitrogen infused sole. I don't actually know all the science behind what that means, but this is also a recraftable shoe so that the sole can be replaced when it wears out, and it's a pretty like attractive looking design. So that is a new shoe that I've been testing and using and enjoying in a lot of cases, minus that one aspect that I talked about. And it's not going to replace my Trail 2650, but I have been enjoying my time aside from the pain in the ankle on the trail with it so far. And then last up here, let's talk about this sleeping pad, the brand new Sea to Summit Etherlite XR Pro that boasts a high R value of 7.4. This is a really nice upgrade or update from the previous like high R value. I think it was the extreme model of the Etherlite. The reason that it's a nice update is the pack size of this pad has been substantially reduced to actually make it viable for putting in your backpack. The previous model used a synthetic insulation in it, which didn't really do an awesome job in creating a lot of thermal efficiency and keeping you warm when you're out in really cold conditions. This now uses a Mylar type of insulation inside of it. I'm not gonna get into all the nitty-gritty details of it. We'll talk about that more when I do a full experience review with this pad. But I'm also putting this in the fleeper category. It's not as comfortable as I would like it to be. There are just aspects of the baffling that you don't have as much depth with the like air sprung baffles on here, and the fabric, at least on the Pro version here, is a bit thicker, and I feel like it doesn't allow for it to be as supple when I'm laying on it. When I compare this to like my Zenbivy Ultralight or the Flex Air from Zenbivy, this is not as comfortable, but it is much better than other pads out there, particularly like the Thermarest pads or some others that don't utilize this quilted baffling that you get here on the pad. It is a pad that I want to spend more time with. I've had it into the mid-20s overnight, and it has done a decent job in being warm. I wouldn't say that I have been cold on the pad, but that high R value, I can't give you like a definitive, you're going to be warm on this pad in these conditions, because I haven't had a chance to take it out on the snow or anything like that yet. But more testing to come from this. I'm just learning the things that I like and don't like about it so far. And that is my experience so far with it. So anyway, thank you so much for watching today, guys. I appreciate you supporting the channel. I appreciate your support of the launch of the other side of my business with the bags on my website and everything. It really, really means a lot to me. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So with that, hope you have an awesome day. We will catch you on the next one. See you later.